Don't know the power.
The math is unfunnable.
Fusion reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
Get to the chopper!
Press go up.
Gigantic fusion reactor that just works.
Multiple income streams and real yield.
Ooh, yeah!
Cheats can no longer dump on your heads. The revolutionary decentralized finance protocol. Fusion reaction in T-minus 3, 2, 1.
Fusion! You don't know the power.
The math is unfunnable.
Fusion reaction.
Oh, hell yeah.
The mothership.
And what's it gonna do?
Everybody excited?
Oh, hell yeah.
Give my creation! Fusion.
Get ready to rumble.
Fusion.
Gotta do a huge shout out to Cool Sheet. That song just hits.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to EMP Money. This is our weekly live stream about our entire mothership. We have a very interesting AMA today, both good news and bad news. We'll get through it all, but I just want to start out. The very first thing I say on this AMA is that we are not going anywhere. No matter how many strikes against us, we never give up, and we have a real plan on continuing the momentum with EMP. But we'll get into all that in a minute. If you've been living under a rock, you probably have no idea what I'm referring to, but we'll go into all the details tonight. So, and one more huge shout out to all of you that have been extremely supportive during this time as well. But we're going to go over all that tonight. What's next for EMP and the entire mothership, and coming out of this better and stronger than ever. So before we get into all that, though, I want to introduce my co-host with the most and fellow team member, LA. How are you?
Hey guys, good to see everyone. I'm good. Looking forward to a super detailed and awesome AMA tonight. Thank you for joining us. And just to mirror what AJ said, thank you for all the support. I know everyone's eager to hear what we have to say tonight, so appreciate you all being here.
Yeah, 100%. Like, couldn't agree more. And again, the usual, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That really helps us get the word out, especially when we're going to go over tonight. Some people probably are still not aware of the full scope. So it's important that we, get the word out to everybody. So, all right, we're going to kick things off because it will be a long one. And as we go through this, please feel free to ask questions in the chat, but you may just want to take notes and wait till the very end because we're going to go over pretty much everything. And, obviously we have no problem staying as long as it takes to answer everybody's questions, but a lot of them are going to be answered as we go through this. So on top of everything else, just to kick things off, man, the market has been absolutely crushed. Again, we're going to go through everything tonight. It just seems like one bad issue after another with this. So, but on top of that, ETH is severely down. Obviously, markets reacting with Trump tariffs, reciprocal and non-reciprocal tariffs throughout the globe. And again, I mean, numbers that we saw, post-COVID, which is just crazy. I mean, I think that it is short-term pain, and I think it is manipulation. The art of the deal, so to speak, with Trump really trying to manipulate, the overall landscape. But I am still bullish. I mean, and that'll be a theme going through tonight. Fundamentally, nothing has changed. And, I don't think it's us being, delusional. I think it's just knowing, if you take a step back and not make decisions based on emotion and you make decisions based on fundamentals, I mean, there has still been no more bullish news and sentiment and laws and structure that is pro crypto than what we have right now. And so again, we're in a tough spot in crypto overall. But this could very well be the beginning of the actual bull market, which I know we've been saying for a while now. But I think that the lower we go, the more of a chance that it is the bottom. And honestly, again, if you zoom out, April is usually about when things start to turn around. We said all along, through the summer and topping out at the end of the year. So that being said, too, with ETH being down, it's an amazing time to get cheap EMP. Along with the issues we've had. Sorry for the background noise. My daughter's here. Along with the issues we've had, we've still been holding up fairly well against EMP, which I'll show here in a minute. But again, some people will use this as a opportunity, and some won't, and that's okay. Whatever side of the coin you're on. But the best time to buy is on red days, and we've been seeing that with not only the dip of EMP, but with ETH being the same tied to it, and it also makes it a lot easier to recover peg when these prices are so low. So, LA, anything you want to add to that, or anything else about the overall markets? Again, I feel like we got to catch a break eventually, right? I mean, good lord, but it is
Yeah.
opportunity.
One thing I wanted to remind everyone of is that the ETH and EMP charts are very closely linked. And I saw a discussion earlier in the Discord chat about some huge dip. And I just knew right away to go look at the ETH chart. And sure enough, there's a dip on both charts at the same time of day today, this morning. And not that there's no sell pressure on EMP. There has been some selling on EMP as well. But I just want to remind everyone that every time you see red on the EMP chart does not mean that people are selling EMP. A lot of the time, especially recently, it means that there's a dip happening in ETH, which is actually more of an ideal buying time because we're getting more EMP for every single dollar of ETH. And on top of that, every time we're buying right now, we're helping the momentum to get back going and helping us to reach peg, which is going to help us all earn more. So
Yeah, 100%. It's a great point. I mean, we saw a pretty massive wick down, but it still just touched this upward trend. I mean, again, this is the EMP ETH chart rather than the EMP USD chart, and this is what we show. And to really give you a better picture, I mean, we're still above some support and resistance. We're still going up, even with the massive wick down. It's still about the same buying volume as selling volume. I mean, again, only a $200 difference over the last 24 hours. So to LA's point, don't believe everything you hear and get panicked and scared. Think about it and look at it objectively because we can't fake, the numbers. So again, this chart compared to this chart, see, that tells a very different story. And again, you just got to know what you're looking at. So this is the actual price in USD, which does reflect the up and down fluctuation of ETH. And again, I think last night we hit like 1700 ETH almost. So it's it's brutal no matter how you look at it. But in relatively speaking, EMP has actually outperformed ETH over the last, what, 4 or 5 months since February. So yeah, since 2 months, it's been up and to the right against ETH. So again, I'm just want to make sure everybody is comparing apples to apples here. But yeah, anything you want me to go into on the chart while I have it up, LA?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered most of it, but just how if they have the right mindset, it's actually much more of an opportunity right now to get EMP than it was a week or two ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, there is only so much EMP in existence now. So if you break it down as simply as possible, the goal of this ecosystem is to accumulate as much EMP as you possibly can at the lowest dollar value that possible. So, when we do see dips like this, and that is part of the whole game theory of fusion, not only accumulating EMP, but then also sacrificing it for the peg bonus, you are heavily incentivized to buy and burn EMP the when we do have dips. And again, this is a self-fulfilling, destiny of recovering peg and maintaining peg because you're incentivized through these healthy mechanisms that takes EMP off the market, which again, the more EMP inside of Fusion through that sacrifice, that's less selling pressure we have to deal with, moving forward. And I know we'll go into liquidity a little bit too down in the next few points, but liquidity also, has a lot to do with what we're seeing as well. So I'll wait for that part. But yeah, the whole idea again, if you break down Fusion in the most simplest terms possible, it's about trying to accumulate as much EMP and sacrifice it for the cheapest amount in dollar value. And there will absolutely be a time in the very near future that there is no more EMP uh, in existence, and that directly relates to your ownership of the protocol. So once that happens, new users have to buy their microgrids from you, and you make all the money on that, not the protocol. So again, it's super bullish. We just have to get through, these difficult times, both with the market and from the protocol, which we'll get into in a minute. But all right, I think that covers a lot. LA, what's next? Yeah, yeah.
All right. So let's talk about dexSwap really briefly. The bridge has been paused due to the recent dexFi exploit. We've paused it so that we can include that in the investigation and everything. A number of you did attempt to bridge prior to us being able to fully pause the bridge and had stuck transactions. Wanted to let everyone know that we've taken care of all the refunds for every one of you who wrote into us via Telegram or Discord tickets. So if you had a stuck bridge transaction and you wrote into us, it's been refunded. You can still provide liquidity on dexSwap. So I think AJ is going to go into that a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. So just what Eller was saying, both the Arbitrum to PLS to BSC bridge has been paused, not only due to the exploit, but we're really, and we'll get into this in a minute, we really have to just consolidate our resources right now as we go through this. I mean, and a lot of what I'm going to say tonight is subject to change, but because we're so transparent, we get on these AMAs and we give you this information, in real time as we move forward. But the bridge will definitely be having some major changes. We're hoping to continue the bridge, but until we migrate fully to dexSwap, we may be discontinuing the bridge for the immediate future. So don't use it. You can't use it anyways. Paused. But like Ella said, if you did and you had something stuck, you were manually refunded. The bridge itself wasn't exploited, so that's really good. SDI, US Dex, I mean, obviously we have to deal with the bots and all the backing. Collateral's good, but it all has downstream effects. So we'll be making an update on SDI and USDEX as well. But the good news is that those weren't completely drained through the exploit either. And then on top of all this, again, like I hate to keep saying it, but we can't catch a break. Ravi has discontinued support for PulseChain, so you have to add, and we'll show this too in a minute. You have to add the network to either MetaMask or Ravi manually. You can do that through Chainlist. But that being said, because Ravi and DBank are the same people, it's making it extremely difficult to work with the API that we were previously using from DBank, and anybody that wants to check on transactions really can't without looking at the Explorer. The PulseChain Explorer is pretty terrible. We've said that from the day one. There are some new front end options that we can share. I just want to make sure that we vet them first. This has all happened within the last 2 days. Again, when it rains, it pours. But we'll share those resources with the community when we can. But that will also severely impact the bridge in the short term. So, rather than trying to put out 10 different fires at once, we're just pausing everything. And, again, the main Ethereum bridge is what I would recommend first. Obviously, Ethereum gas fees have also come down quite a bit. So even if you're moving small amounts, the main bridge, Pulse Bridge to ETH is probably your best bet to move in or out of Pulse. So, all right. And then let me show LP. Was there anything else on that front, LA, before I get to LP?
Nope.
All right, so again, I know a lot of you were providing LP for Ethereum EMP or eShare BNB through our vaults, the AILM. Obviously, with the exploit, everything has been paused. So you are able to actually provide liquidity on your own if you choose to do so. Again, I would highly recommend that unless you're somewhat of a veteran and are very comfortable doing this, then this part is for you. If you're not, then you're much better off just to not do anything right now, because it can be potentially detrimental, and I'll show you why, because of impermanent loss. So you would go again. Sorry, I guess I should have said that. Let me go back. All right, so this is the same process for anybody. You're going to create, connect your wallet, and then we'll just show an example of EMP ETH. You're going to click on that. You go to create position, and then you can add liquidity this way. So narrow would be about 2% up and 2% down. I would definitely not recommend narrow. Obviously, with a tighter range, you're going to be getting a lot more fees. But if you provide liquidity in this range and EMP goes up, you would be selling all of your EMP at those prices. So again, I don't want anybody to say, well, I provided liquidity, now I have no more EMP, and we recover PEG in a few more months. So just be really aware of the risk. You can definitely do a portion of your EMP, and again, I would suggest wide is probably the most risky I would get, because we could easily move 10% in a day with the volatility of EMP. So and typically, again, depending on how you set the range, you also have to have the matching Ethereum to go along with that EMP, unless you again move the ranges to more upside potential or downside potential. So again, this is a very advanced move, and that's why the vaults are so powerful, because it really simplifies all of this. But I just want to make sure that we went over it as a mini tutorial here again. So does that help, LA? And it's the exact same way for EMP, for eShare.
Yeah, we had some questions about that, so wanted to make sure to go over it tonight.
All right, perfect. So yeah, same thing with eShare. Again, just make sure you study your range and know that, if there are buys and sells, that means you are buying or selling your the two assets in that range. So just be very aware of the risks and impermanent loss. So
And then the EMP ETF, can we talk a little bit about why they help the protocol and why they're good for you as an individual as well?
yeah, no doubt. So again, the ETFs are going to be less important right now just because everything is on hold with the vaults. But when the vaults are back up and running, and if you have rewards, let me go ahead and pull that up. Hang on. All right, so we covered the EMP ETF on the last AMA, which was really bullish. But with this exploit, we've paused everything, and again, we'll go into all that detail next. But for those that may have ETFs already, because some of your rewards were going to the ETF, so your connector wallet, you go to ETFs, you go to BSC. And here you go. So again, it looks like not a lot of you do have it. There's only about 152 bucks in TVL. But what you would do is you would go here, you go to view fund, and then if you did have rewards, make sure you go to burn, but don't do single asset burn. This right here, don't do that. Do multi-asset. Because what that does is it gives you the actual tokens. So single asset burn actually sells EMP, eShare, and ETH into BNB and rewards you in that. But the multi-asset burn gives you the actual tokens. So again, just buying this ETF alone could also be helpful. Again, I don't want to recommend that yet until we have everything under control with the vaults. But you can just outright buy this ETF. You go to Mint. And again, if you had ETH, or yeah, ETH is what the only one supported right now. But ETH on BNB, you could just actually buy these ETFs, and what that does is not only does that, it's like market buying EMP, eShare, and ETH. But as ETH goes up and eShare goes up and EMP goes up, it actually is able to provide buying pressure on those assets as it rebalances. So again, if ETH shoots up and is a lot higher, then those profits are used to buy more eShare and buy more EMP within the ETF, so that we're always maintaining the 50, 25%, and 25% ratio. So again, as you can see, EMP is below that 50% ratio the most right now, and eShare is above. So it will be taking profit from eShare and actually applying it to EMP as the price goes up. So, and a lot of you, again, this is another question. We've been seeing there are buys, of just 1 or 2 cents on eShare and EMP. Those are the bots that are rebalancing, as through the ETF, through the AILMs, through just open arbitrage. So that's kind of where that comes from. But all right, does that help, LA?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, great. What is next on our list?
The big topic of the night.
All right, no doubt. Let me go ahead and pull up my screen. Hang on 1 second here. All right, now I can concentrate. All right, so LA. Again, those that don't know, we had a massive exploit on the dexFi vaults. Jake is in the middle of picking up all the pieces, but he will be joining us hopefully on the next AMA. So you can hear from him directly. But again, with our flawless track record, we definitely, got tagged finally. So it's not a death blow. Again, it's a shot in the arm, not in the head. And there will be some massive changes coming. But overall, fundamentally, EMP is still strong. Dex vaults will be rebuilt with all the vulnerabilities plugged, and we will still be able to move forward with all this. And we have even some other really cool plans too that we'll tentatively announce tonight for everybody to plan for. But I guess LA, do you want to start with just reading kind of the bullet points, and then I can kind of go into more detail?
For sure. Yes. So we are still determining the full scope of what has happened. This is a major setback, but as AJ just said, by no means is it protocol ending. And if you guys know us, we never give up. I just, on a side note, aside from what's written in our notes, want to say that mindset and how you look at things is so important. And I've actually taken the time this week to think of it in a way that obviously this really sucks for everyone involved losing money, but this gives us an opportunity to rebuild in a smarter way, in a stronger way, and actually surpass the direction that we were going. It might take longer, of course, but I believe that everything happens for a reason. Obviously, we wouldn't have chosen for this to happen, but it does give us an opportunity to build back way stronger, way bigger, and we do fully intend to do that. So I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're not going anywhere, that we are staying extremely positive, that we're making solid plans, and that we're already well into thinking through all of this. And now we're going to go into this further, but we're also going to get some help doing some investigation on what happened so that we can ensure that nothing like this would ever happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can kind of take over from here with kind of a brief explanation of what happened. So let's start at the beginning. On again, all my days ran together. I feel like I've been up for an entire week straight with all the stress and just trying to figure this all out. But earlier this week, we woke up and saw the TVL in the all of the vaults draining, and unfortunately it wasn't a UI problem, it was a real hack. The attack vector, and again we're working through all this, so what I'm about to say may be subject to change based on the new information we find, but because we have such a big dev team and all over the world, we don't have dedicated servers. So typically, you either have a cloud server or you run a physical server, in a warehouse that is only accessible, through remote access or being on site. So we do have everything in the cloud. It looks like the hacker was able to get through the cloud security, and in order to have these contracts work, there are private keys within the server that are encrypted. Again, we do everything we can to protect ourselves. So all the private keys are encrypted, but those private keys are needed to be able to make edits to the contracts, from the actual devs. Well, not only was this hacker able to infiltrate the web server, but then they were also able to get access to the encrypted keys. Once they had access to the encrypted keys, they then were able to inject their own smart contract via proxy into the minting contract for VT tokens. So VT tokens or vault tokens, they are the receipt of that you have deposited LP into the different vaults. So that's how we keep track. It's been this way from day one, and it's how it has to happen. There's no way to have a smart contract that doesn't mint these receipt tokens to keep track. Now, what the issue was is that the hacker was able to inject their own code to be able to mint these VT tokens and essentially drain the entire LP because the smart contract thought that they were the owner of all the VT tokens. So again, that's a high level. Without getting too specific and too in depth, that's kind of a high level of what happened in the exploit itself. And again, I mean, to Ella's point about maybe slowing things down and really, getting a better handle on the dev team and what we're doing moving forward, we probably could have prevented it had there been some sort of time lock or multi-sig on that actual smart contract. But we had just moved all the vaults to Sonic to do Sonic support. We are developing at a breakneck speed where, this hacker was just laying in wait because we've had multi-sig and time locks on a lot of these contracts. So it was definitely, an, a crime of opportunity. And, we definitely take responsibility for, the holes that there may have been. But all that being said, I mean, we have had multiple audits. I mean, we've had no exploits whatsoever from day one. This wasn't a flash loan. This wasn't, any kind of an easily preventable hack. I mean, this was massively sophisticated, and you can't even tell from the hacker, uh, based on what happened after the exploit, that it was. And we have all this in the postmortem. You guys can look at on our socials. There is a bubble map of where all the transactions went to probably 1,000 different wallets within a second after the hack happened. But we spent over 200 grand on audits from all the most trusted companies. Sodec, Hacken, Halborn, KYC, and unfortunately, again, and this isn't pointing fingers at anybody, but audits are just worth the paper that they're printed on. And, even in our case, a lot of times our devs know way more about the product than even the auditors do. And so, it's really hard to catch these edge cases when, the auditing companies don't even know, the full scope of the tech that we're using. So, all that being said, we are also pursuing this to every extent that we can. We filed multiple reports with IC3. We've contacted the FBI. We're waiting to hear back, but we have everything filed. And, we've also hired an independent company. They are a crime, blockchain crime investigation company that's highly recommended, and that will also rule out an inside job. I know the Fudsters always want to say, it was an inside job, but again, we will explore that and make sure it wasn't. We have IP addresses and receipts of both logging in and logging out of the server, and we have turned all that over to the proper authorities independently to double check on that. But just from a rational thinking, our devs, they also get a cut of the protocol, and so you wouldn't want to hack, the one thing that could potentially make you way more in the long run than it would in the short term. Even with, I think the final number was about 750 ETH. It just doesn't make sense. And we've worked with these devs from day one, and because of this, a lot of the dev team has now been let go. So, and that wasn't because of mistrust. It was because that we just can't afford to move forward with a 30-person dev team from here on out. And only the senior devs were the ones that had access to the server anyway. So and all of them are KYC'd with us. Again, if there is foul play, then we have every ability to go after them for it. So again, just being fully transparent on everything where we're at and what we've done and where we are. So, I guess LA, maybe you want to comment a little bit on the fundamentals that they're still really strong, and although this is a big hit, I mean it's not protocol ending for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The fundamentals are still extremely strong. That's what we want to get across tonight. Realistically, nothing has changed in terms of our future, our peg, the economics of Fusion, and the security of everything we have in place. Luckily, not 100% of our treasury was in the vault, and we're able to move forwards. We always diversify. We never put all of our eggs in one basket. For the most part, protocol assets, EMP, eShare, GG, all of the protocol assets were not affected for the most part, and we were able to recover the majority of the native assets under our Mothership umbrella. That's a huge, huge, huge positive, because had they stolen and sold the EMP and eShare, that would have had a way bigger impact on Fusion and the Honor versus Madness game had they done it with GG.
For sure.
Liquidity will be slowly added back as we address all of the security issues and are comfortable to move forwards. And we'll have more info coming on how we're moving forward with some of the native assets that were affected.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, those are the examples of why, we look at the silver lining, because had the hacker, and again, your guess is as good as mine on why. If I had to guess, I would say probably because our native assets are on dexSwap. I think that was maybe a saving grace, because, when this hacker, put together the smart contract to dump everything in one block, they just didn't either know where the liquidity was or care, or there wasn't enough liquidity that it even mattered to them. So, and again, all that is speculation. I have no idea what is in the hacker's head, but the bottom line is, they didn't steal the EMP, the eShare, or the GG, and really a lot of the other tokens within the mothership anyway. So yeah, all right, go ahead, LA. Sorry.
No, all good. Obviously, this is a major setback. Nobody's denying that. But again, we just want to emphasize we are not giving up. We never will. We feel so much weight and responsibility because we love our community so incredibly much. Obviously, we're all ethical people. So whether or not we loved you guys, we would still take care of everyone. But we're not giving up because we literally have the best community in crypto. And it would have been easy to give up 10 setbacks ago, but we never have. And I think that shows that we never will. The entire team lost massively in this attack as well. But our focus has been on making sure that we're doing everything in our power to take care of the community and to get everything in place so that we can continue on in the direction we were going and beyond it.
Yeah, absolutely, LA. Again, I mean, I said this in my post to the community, but this is literally the biggest impact I've had in my 10 years of crypto. I mean, all the team members were utilizing the vaults to earn on their own. Again, we don't sell native assets to pay for things. I mean, that is what makes EMP different. While every other protocol does do that, we have to use the treasury and live off our personal funds, not, selling as a team cut of the protocol. And so, this has had a major impact on everybody involved, myself, LA, Jake, all the other devs, even just from a personal standpoint. So, it stings both ways, both from the protocol health and from personal health. Now, again, thank God we're not having to go back to McDonald's quite yet. And all the additional resources are going to be put to recovery. And at least having enough to continue paying for some development. Again, we'll talk about that more specifically in a minute, but like I said, we definitely are having to scale back because of this, and that's temporary. I mean, again, everything that we're talking about today is temporary. I mean, if we do finally get somewhat of a bull run, we do implement a recovery plan that works, we get some new capital coming in, then all of this stuff can easily be undone, over the next few months. And now we're right back where we were, before the hack. So again, just keep all that in mind as we go through it. But overall, I would just recommend taking a deep breath and really looking at the bigger picture, because some of you may look at it as a time to load up, and some may look at it as this is all over. But don't make a purely emotional decision. And honestly, uh, fundamentally things are very strong as we move forward. So again, just and again, it sounds a little uh, you know, uh, uh, even with the low liquidity, if you're going to sell, you're really going to hurt yourself, because a lot of this liquidity is provided to the upside. So when you sell, you're getting killed with price impact, and selling now to just leave at a total loss, or wherever you might be in the protocol. Uh, uh, Again, everybody's able to do what they want. That's the beauty of crypto, but I would highly suggest not to do that, because it impacts you and the rest of the community, as we're just trying to recover at this point. So yeah, I don't know, anything you want to add to that part, LA?
No, just know that we're doing everything in our power to get us back on track, and to do so in the safest and most efficient, effective way possible.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the AMAs will continue. The majority of you, in fact, probably all of you, are more than understanding and supporting, and that really means a lot, because if there would have been an uproar, then it maybe could have been protocol ending, because we have to have the support of all of you to make this work. I mean, that we say it all the time, but without the community, there is no protocol, and we could build the most amazing product market fit, most amazing tech out there, but if nobody uses it and nobody cares, then there's literally nothing we are able to do as a team to uh, make it work. And luckily, we're not in that position. And I think a lot of you do see the future and everything that we're working towards. So that being said, what do we plan to do in order to move forward? So I'll go over a little bit of this, and then again, LA, if you want to elaborate. But we have hired a independent company called Intelligence on Chain. We'll be sharing all their info and all that they're finding over the next few weeks. They do feel like they have a pretty good chance of at least being able to find out who the hacker was, in terms of tracking IP addresses, and even some of the um, transactions were with centralized exchanges, and typically you have to KYC with centralized exchanges to have to be able to use them. So whether it's a fake or a stolen identity, that's a whole nother possibility, but at least we have options to really track. And that's a cool part about blockchain, is you can go back and see exactly how everything happened. So they've been highly recommended. We used our own funds to hire them. Jake again is devastated about this just as much as all of us are, and so we feel like it's worth it, at least to find out who it is, and ultimately rule out or determine whether it was an inside job or any foul play that may have happened. So um, they look at everything both on because this was a multi chain attack. Again, the majority of the liquidity was on Sonic and Base. So ETH being the the asset on Base and Arbitrum. So ETH from both Base and Arbitrum, and Sonic from Sonic. They'll be tracking all the networks and determining what has happened. Again, IP addresses, device fingerprints, even behavioral indicators. That this is what they do. They're professionals. So they also are gonna try to identify any counterparties, wallet correlation, and other analytics that would be able to be not only tracked but then reported to the FBI, because you got to remember the FBI and the DOJ, they have to have in order for a centralized exchange to reveal an identity, they have to be subpoenaed. We can't just email Binance and say, hey, this email was a scammer. They have to, number one, have proof, and number two, have to have actual regulatory agencies involved. So with the help of intelligence on chain, we can make all that happen. So yeah, and again, they create all these formal incident reports and documentation that will be able to be submitted to law enforcement. So we're working with them, as close as we can, and hopefully within the next few weeks we have some updates. Obviously, all of you will be the first to know when that happens. So, all right, anything else about moving forward before we talk about a potential new addition that will help us get back on our feet even quicker?
Yeah, I think that's it. The key part here is that we are not rushing any of this process. We are hiring the right help to find out exactly what happened and report everything to the authorities and do whatever we can, partially to do anything we can to remedy what already happened, but also partially to ensure that nothing like this can ever happen again. We need to know exactly all the details about what were involved beyond what the devs have already investigated themselves. Sometimes when you're staring at a problem, having outside eyes can reveal a whole lot more than you could see yourself. So this is a really important step.
Yeah, and that's a great point, LA. I mean, again, the vaults are an amazing product market fit, and there are people that want to start using the vaults immediately, even with all this. And we're taking it upon ourselves that we really have to plug all the holes. And again, I mean, Jake and I have had some in-depth discussions. As much as we want to protect the IP, or intellectual property, of the vaults, we've had some serious discussions over the last few days, again, just to build, confidence back with the community. We may end up open sourcing the DexVault code. And what that would do is allow us to participate in Code for Arena and other white hat hacker initiatives that will go through the code and really make it bulletproof. And maybe there are other things that we haven't found that they can then look into. And we would still be able to get fees from the protocol. All that would be baked in to the smart contracts. But then it really would be completely decentralized. And honestly, that is a goal that we were moving towards anyway. But because again, we build at such a fast speed, and we do have a lot of secret sauce. We were keeping that in house. But if that's what it takes to get the vaults back up and running, and actually be able to provide the service to the overall crypto landscape, I mean, we'll do whatever it takes. So that's also in the works. And again, when Jake comes on next week, then we can maybe dive a little deeper into that. But yeah, the whole point is that we're reaching out to the biggest and brightest minds in all of crypto in terms of security and auditing, to make sure that when we do open the vaults again, they're bulletproof. Because again, I mean, we can't go through this again. We couldn't go through it the first time, but we're holding on for dear life. So, all right, I think that covers all the security issues. Now, what is next? Essentially, is where we're at. I think a lot of the FUD, or just uncertainty of EMP and Fusion is with the treasury and what has happened to others' funds that were in the vaults that now have nothing. So we'll be rolling out a recovery plan in the next few days. For right now, we're kind of referring to it as the RBF. Again, this is all subject to change, and we're still working on the details. But I did want to roll it out to all of you to kind of get feedback on this. Number one, and to maybe prepare you for what is coming. But essentially, they are recovery bonds. So a lot of you have been asking about bonds anyway. You remember the EMP bonds that we had last year. That was already something a lot of you were interested in. And now, with this, we can spin it to not only provide a return, but also help EMP get right back in the saddle. And again, like what Ella said earlier, thank God a lot of our, some of the treasury is still, able to earn. Again, we were able to cover the new dev fees monthly from the yield that we're able to do. That was one of the reasons we had to downsize, but at least we're not selling EMP or eShare or Dex, GDEX to pay for, development. So that's really exciting. And I'll go into a little bit more of our revenue streams that we still have in a minute. But right now, the tentative idea is the recovery bond program. It will be an NFT that is $300. The supply will be unlimited, and we'll have a funding round for about 2 weeks. So each NFT will represent a share of the recovery bond fund or RBF. So this will be managed directly by us, again, outside of the vaults until the vaults are ready, and then eventually maybe move to the vaults. But this wallet will be completely doxed, where all of you can see every single on-chain transaction on the blockchain. I'm sure we can get a Grover and John to do a front end for those of you that don't know, how to read on-chain data. But this will be 100% transparent. All the funds will then be, used to do concentrated liquidity farming, just like we did with the vaults. Essentially, a manual version of the vaults for this alone. You also get, again, with Jake and I, we're always getting, new info on launching tokens with trusted teams. So we'll be able to provide liquidity for those tokens early and, have massive exposure to Sonic and Ethereum through doing all this. And all the assets in the fund will be contained within, like I said, a single docs wallet. So, everybody sees what's happening on a real-time basis. And then on a daily or weekly epoch, all the profits will be claimed. And then 50% of the profits will go towards the asset recovery program. So again, paying out those of you that may have been affected from the vaults. Again, we'll have a whole separate plan on how you're going to get credit on that, and then 50% will be compounded into the RBF. And then once the fund overall is at a 2x, so say we're able to raise 100 grand over the next few months, we're able to turn that into 200 grand. Then all the principal that you have contributed to the RBF will be returned to those of you that were that originally contributed. So you're made whole immediately, and then you have an ownership of that wallet moving forward. So over the next 6 months, then any of the profits you are getting free and clear from that. Again, 100% go towards those that are in the pool, and we'll do it through a staking pool. So again, if you haven't, you get your capital back after the 2x, and then you have to stake your NFTs to earn the revenue from what that wallet generates. And at that point as well, you could sell your NFT to somebody else, and we'll have a marketplace to do so. So that is the essentially like a digital hedge fund, and it will be a short-term solution to help us recover moving forward. So again, that's tentatively what we have in mind. We'll have a lot more on this. I'm happy to get feedback from all of you on how we can make it better. Obviously we're not in a position, and we would never just ask for, donations or anything like that. We still have to, make it lucrative here. But I think that this is a really cool solution that helps us on all fronts. So, LA, anything you want to add to that, or any questions about the potential recovery bonds?
I think you covered it pretty fully, so I don't know how much I have to add to that, but definitely let us know if you have any questions, and we'll cover them during the Q&A at the end of the show.
Yeah, 100%. So, all right, then maybe I guess next, let's go over, how this relates to EMP Fusion directly, LA. I know, I'd love for you to maybe go over a lot of the revenue streams that we do have still. And again, I think the big concern is, without having a healthy treasury because of the exploit, that means, there's no more buying pressure on Peg or eShare, but that really isn't the case. I mean, again, we still have enough left in the tank, and honestly, a lot of the recovery has been organic anyway, where a lot of you are buying EMP and eShare, which again, as simple and as basic as it sounds, as as long as there's more people buying EMP than selling it, then we are able to recover Peg. So, again, Fusion is still bullish. I mean, yes, this may set us back a few months, um, but Fusion is not a few months protocol. Fusion is a year, retirement, a generational wealth protocol where we are building for the next 10 years. And, I hope that we can look back on this, and we will look back on this as a major, major recovery. I mean, when we do this, we will be absolute legends in, you thought Peg recovery was legendary. Wait until we have Peg recovery and pay everybody back, uh, over 750 ETH worth of value through all this, and have the vaults, back up and running. I mean, again, I don't know any other protocol on the planet that would even be as close to as ambitious as we are. But all right, so LA, maybe just go over a few of, although the treasury was a major source of, income, what else do we have that could be an income stream?
Yeah, the treasury was not the only source of income, and we have planned for the worst case scenarios just like this and still have multiple revenue streams through all of our real world products. And that is the power of Fusion. So let's remind everyone of that. But here's a few of the revenue streams, and there's more on the way. As you know, we're always building. But dexSwap, Fusion fees from the marketplace and everything you do on the protocol. Honor versus Madness coming later this year, all of our bridging fees, Dex vaults once we're able to get things back online safely. We also have equity in upcoming projects, some VC funding yet to TGE. Our
Yeah, let me
YouTube
yeah. Oh, let me interrupt you real quick on that one, LA. I'm sorry. So yeah, this is a big one actually. So I know a lot of you are bullish on Sonic. We've already been farming Sonic airdrop points on the treasury. Again, utilizing a borrowing and lending strategy. That money then is then used to pay for to yield and then pay for development. Which again we can even dox that wallet so you guys can see, where the funds are going. But on top of that, we are actually, and we are invested in quite a few projects, some of which those that are in the DAO have also invested in, but I think about 3 or 4 AI related projects as well as other DeFi protocols should be launching, this summer when the liquidity is there and the real bull run is here. And again, I mean, some of those could easily 10x, which, again, that's not our money, that is the protocol's money. So all of that will go right towards the treasury fund and continue to be able to pay people out from not only, the exploit, but then also for Fusion. I mean, again, the whole idea is that we are able to recover PEG and then actually put all of the revenue streams towards the payouts in Fusion, which, has a flywheel effect because the more people are able to earn through Fusion, the more they want to be in Fusion, and that makes more buying pressure on microgrids, and again, the flywheel continues. So that one alone, although it's not daily revenue coming in, that could be a really big one, especially with what we have coming for sure. So, all right, go ahead. Sorry, Ellie.
Love it.
Mhm. Yeah. So again, I mean, that was pretty much it. The only other two were YouTube, and affiliate commissions, and then the 2 new protocols. So again, you've heard us mention, Gia. Gia will be launching a basically an AI agent platform. And then Gia will also be doing a marketing platform called Cash Yaps. So keep an eye out for that as well. I mean, obviously with a smaller dev team, that might take a little bit longer now. But the 2 lead devs on those individual projects, they're not part of our core dev team. They've been working on it independently anyway, so that should really help because they're a lot more AI focused than the Solidity devs. But again, Jake can maybe elaborate more on that as we move forward. But all of those things in the upcoming bull run will be revenue streams back to GDEX and Fusion. All right, awesome.
Yes,
And then
awesome.
yeah. All right, so go ahead. There's one more bullet point on
Yeah.
eShare LA. I know, again.
Well, before that,
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, this is why it's more important than ever to get our momentum back and reach that final climb to peg. I know that there's been a lot of fear this week. There's certainly been a lot of uncertainty this week until we were able to come on this AMA and really get into a lot of details. But we do have the best community in crypto, and we do need to continue to work together to get that momentum back, because I think that when all of this happened, there was some selling that happened, and it was just due to fear and uncertainty. And we are very certain that we are going to be continuing in the direction that we want to go in. Do we know every single little moving part? We're still figuring some of it out, to be completely transparent. But we know that we're not giving up, that we're going to continue to add more revenue streams for Fusion, and that we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that our community members that are involved in Fusion, that have put years of their time into following this protocol, are going to reach that finish line together and really get to a point where we're all making great revenue from being a part of Fusion. And so this is why it's more important than ever to get our momentum back and to do that together to finally reach that final climb to peg. And remember that scooping up cheap eShare now may be the lowest they'll ever go. And the higher we get eShare, the higher the emissions portions of the rewards are. And that wasn't even one of the things that we put on our list, the eShare emissions. And as we get closer and closer to the new year, we have this halvening model. And so eShare can become more valuable, especially as there's I'll let AJ explain how the liquidity and all that works, but
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
important that we continue this momentum with purchasing not only EMP to deposit into Fusion, but also eShare, because the two are very correlated, and we want to make sure that we keep our protocol strong and we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, no doubt, LA. And so, yeah, I'll elaborate on that for sure. Again, in specifically about eShare, it is true. I mean, again, we have some incredible whales that have only accumulated eShare. We have the treasury that still has a ton of eShare. Both LA and I personally have a lot of eShare just from, being part of the team and being around from day one. And all of that matters because there is very little eShare actually available. And again, just like we see supply shock with EMP, people aren't burning eShare, but we are. I mean, as a protocol, we're collecting fees through the marketplace, and then a portion of that actually burns eShare. And we, are controlling the liquidity. That was a question we had, which I'm sure we'll get later. So we did purposely reduce liquidity with the hack, obviously, just to protect the ecosystem on EMP and eShare. We still haven't added a bunch back to eShare, but we have added a bunch more to EMP. And the way that we're adding the liquidity, which again is part of the secret sauce of Fusion, is we're adding liquidity with a much higher upside potential, meaning those that want to buy eShare and EMP are able to do so with very little price impact, and those that want to sell eShare and EMP are going to get hit with price impact. And it's not us being sneaky. It's just what has to happen right now during the recovery. And the whole idea is that when we are at peg, then we add a bunch of liquidity both sides, and then we're able to really maintain peg. Those that want to sell at a higher price, I hate to make the analogy, but we're almost saving people from themselves, dumping at a loss or at a low price, and then being able to have much more liquidity at a higher price. I mean, it helps everybody. It helps you. It helps the protocol, and it is all part of the plan. So there is some very creative liquidity management that is happening, and that all plays into it as we go. And remember, e-shares are meant to be speculative. So if you're buying e-share and holding it, the value comes from the volume that we're able to do, which again, when we're at peg, and the only way to get into Fusion is eventually buying other people's microgrids, that 100% of the economic energy goes into eShare then rather than EMP, because there is no more EMP. So that is when we really should see eShare, represent the overall value of the ecosystem, just like it did, in the original Tomb model, but for different reasons. So again, that's really, really bullish. And if you want to sell some eShare on the way up, that is your prerogative. So with eShare, the buying and selling doesn't negatively impact the protocol overall, and it was purposely designed that way. So again, bear with us. Let the dust settle as we, really get everything under control, and then liquidity will absolutely be, put back for sure. So, okay. Um, all right. Another quick question was, how do we transfer a microgrid between wallets? Again, that was a feature that we were working on with the migration. That's another thing I'm sure people are going to ask. We're still migrating the legacy contracts. Again, I was hoping to have that today, but with everything going on, obviously that's going to be a bit delayed as well. But it is absolutely still happening. And really, the best way to transfer your microgrid right now between wallets is to sell it to yourself. So again, you would have to list it on the market, and then buy it those hack points. Just be careful, because you don't want to list your microgrid too low, because then somebody could potentially buy it out from under you. But again, get with Grover or Stinky, any of the community members can help explain the best way to do that for sure. So, All right, I got ahead of myself. What does it mean for migration? So yeah, again, I already covered that. Migration of legacy contracts and all the USDT batteries, all of that is absolutely still happening. I'm hoping, even by the next AMA, but we are absolutely delayed now because of, the recent events. But again, fundamentally, nothing is changing in terms of Fusion and how everything operates. Cool. All right. LA, was there anything else before we get into some community questions? And again, if any of you are here in the chat, please feel free to ask if we didn't address it already.
Yeah, I think that's it before the questions. We did have a lot of questions popping up in the chats this week, so I did take the time to scroll through all of our groups to check both the regular chats and the AMA questions on Discord. So I've compiled a list of a lot of the questions that were being asked, and I do see some in the chat as well. So now we'll take some time and go through all of those.
Perfect. All right. Amazing.
So first one, why, and you did already go over this, but maybe you can just reiterate, why is there such low liquidity on EMP and eShare? What's the plan? And when will we expect to see higher liquidity?
Yep, absolutely. So just to recap again, we are purposely managing liquidity in a very specific way. There is plenty of liquidity to the upside. So if you're buying EMP or eShare, then you don't have hardly any price impact, and it helps push the price up. If you're trying to sell large amounts of eShare or EMP, again, the liquidity is thin. So you can do it. I mean, nothing is stopping you from doing it, but you're hurting yourself because you're not getting nearly the value that you could, and you're also hurting the protocol because it dumps the price even harder. But that being said, we're not just not putting liquidity. It's all part of the strategic plan. When EMP is closer to peg, and when the system is healthier, then we can absolutely add back all the liquidity, and that is the plan. I mean, when we're at peg, we're hoping to add a bunch of liquidity right around the peg price, which will further reinforce the peg, and allow those that want to take profit the ability to do so, and then the rest of us to buy that EMP and burn it forever. So again, and it's also a little more complicated than that too, because of the price of ETH. So $100,000 of liquidity right now could be $200,000 of liquidity when ETH recovers as well. So again, there is a very specific plan, and right now those that are complaining about liquidity are the ones that are dumping on our heads. So it is what it is at the moment.
All right. What can we do as a community right now to help to get us back on track?
Yeah, I love this question. So again, shout out to all of you. I've had some amazing personal messages. Like I said earlier, not only has this been a major impact for all of our protocols, but this is the biggest hit I've ever taken personally, as well. So first of all, thank you for everybody that has shown the support. Honestly, it's that simple. I mean, I get it. I know a lot of you are tapped out. You've already put a lot of resources into our ecosystem, and to suffer a hack on all fronts is devastating for everybody. But that emotional support, keeping a positive mindset, trying to manage the haters, trying to have a very rational approach to our recovery, and what it means moving forward. All that is really the best way to help right now. And then when we do have the plan for some sort of recovery bonds, or another initiative that will directly help the treasury, then participating in that is really bullish too. And honestly, I'm really excited about the bond program, because I don't know any other protocol that is actually doxing the wallets. I mean, everybody asks for transparency, and even us. I mean, we've gotten some FUD over that with the treasury. We don't do it for many reasons: security, just people being able to front run or interact with that wallet maliciously. But even some of the most popular digital hedge fund projects, all of it is a black box. So they keep their funds off chain, or they invest in other things that you have no idea about. So I'm excited for that. I think the full transparency of a doxed wallet, where you can see every pool that we're in, all the tokens we have exposure against. It's everything everybody's been asking for from our own treasury, which we have every intention of doing. It's just, with it being multiple wallets and spread out, it's a lot harder than it sounds. But having the bond program under one wallet is very straightforward. And again, we'll have some front end abilities to look at that if you don't know how to look on chain. And yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Again, we're working through the details, but we're hoping to have that ready within a week or so. So, all right. What else? LA, will you want to answer that? What can they do to be supportive right now? Yeah.
I feel like you did such a good job. But I'll just say, like, managing your own personal mindset and keeping in mind where we are still going, and that this is an opportunity to build even stronger. And the support that you give us during this time is absolutely so helpful. So we appreciate all the kind words and encouragement and all of that on your end.
100%.
All right, what is next? You did already cover this, but I'll just read it out loud. What does it mean when we see a 1 cent buy or sell on the eShare chart?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has to do with many things. So, the AILM was buying and selling and rebalancing both EMP and eShare. Obviously that's not happening right now because the vaults are paused. But I think if you're talking about like right this minute, a lot of it has to do with, emissions and the batteries, and also, remember microgrids, like every buy and sell, everything outside of EMP is a buy or sell on eShare. So and then on top of all that, we have our own arbitrage bots that help keep price parity, and are there to generate a stable environment within dexSwap. So that's probably a lot of where that's coming from. We don't have sandwich bots anymore. So and typically a sandwich bot is when, right before you buy or sell, then there's a large buy or sell, so you see two transactions in a row that are very similar in price to move the price. But with dexSwap, because we whitelist all the bots, there is no, front running bots or sandwich bots. It's just simply our own arbitrage bots or the marketplace volume on eShare.
Awesome. All right, next up, how big of an impact was there on the treasury, and what do we have left? What is the plan to build it back up?
Yeah, 100%. So again, I can do a full report. I'll just give some kind of rough numbers. We had about 100 grand left from the treasury. So and that is just from what we have in other protocols yielding. Again, what I said about the VC funds, a lot of the VC stuff has already been spent as an investment, so that doesn't even count for that number. And then we just moved about 30 grand over to a separate wallet, which I'm happy to dox as well. That will be what we're calling the development fund, and that will be a wallet that earns yield to be able to pay for development, so that we're not selling EMP and eShare. And Jake, the GDEX ecosystem matched that. So I think we have about 60. We each put in 30. There's about 60K. And if we're earning 1% a day on that with contrary liquidity, then we're looking, enough to cover our bills, and then be able to, any leftover goes to supporting Fusion and GDEX. And then whatever we're able to do with the bond program, would help. I mean, again, if we can get even just compounding for a month or two, we could easily get the treasury back to 500,000, $1 million, and then all that is being funneled into Fusion. And remember, the treasury is just one revenue stream out of everything. So
Awesome. Okay. Is the HvM game safe? Were all the treasury funds in the vaults? Can we still afford to finish making the game?
yeah, it's a great question. So yes, I mean, again, luckily, it's that none of the native assets were affected. The treasury for HVM was affected, but not to the extent. Again, it's weird. A lot of the BSC related vaults, depending on the liquidity, we don't really have a rhyme or reason of what vaults were exploited and why. A lot of the private vaults were not affected either. So we're in the same boat with HVM in terms of the treasury, but a lot of that has already been spent. I mean, we don't have a lot more money to spend to bring the game to life. So the short answer is GG and HVM might even be in the best position out of anything right now. Again, please join our chat or our live stream after this one for some updates with GG specifically. But we have a lot more news on the GG token as well, which I think will be bullish. We're not going to announce it quite yet, but it will be in the next few days or a week. So again, I think HVM is still in a great spot, and if anything, out of all the protocols, that was the least affected in all of this. And yeah, I mean, again, we're looking at all options too. So if any of you want more OTC deals of GG or EMP, or I mean, we may even look into providing equity shares for GG. So if any of you are interested in that, definitely reach out to me personally, and we can have a conversation. But again, I swear to God, when it rains, it pours. We'll talk about this in the GG specific chat, but there was a major earthquake in Thailand this week as well. Julius, our founder, really hurt his leg bad. Thank God nobody in the studio or the studio itself was damaged, so the game can still be building on track. But it's been, again, earthquakes, hacks, market imploding. I mean, I don't even know what else to. All of our bad juju has to be out of the way now, because I don't know if we could even have another issue at this point. So, oh man. All right, sorry, LA. What's next? We have more questions.
Yes. Can we set up an EMP buy bot in the chats?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do that. I don't know, LA, maybe that's in your wheelhouse. We had that, but it got really annoying. I don't know if that's something people want. Maybe. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, you guys let us know if that's something that you want, and we will assess how the overall community feels.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it, but we did have it at one point. It just was really annoying. But yeah, absolutely. What, we can even do a poll in the Telegram if that's what people want.
Okay, I'm going to check Discord one more time, but in the meantime, there's a whole bunch of questions in the chat that we can dive into. I think there's a couple more questions that popped in towards the end on Discord. So let's hop into those first. I have absolute trust in the team here at EMP, been with you guys since April 2022, and I can see that you've been true to your words and created a great platform with Fusion. I can see its full potential. I have one concern, hence a question for tonight's AMA. I can see that around 92% of EMP has been sacrificed, locked in a few main wallets. What kind of safety measures do you have in place to avoid malicious actors accessing these wallets and selling EMP in the market?
Yeah, it's a great question. So again, a lot of the liquid EMP is in treasury wallets or broken up into a few. in light of this hack, I mean, again, there's a big difference between contract vulnerabilities and web servers and actual wallets. So all of the EMP and treasury wallets is under ledger, or cold storage precautions. So again, I mean, I think that we're pretty safe on that front. But ultimately, when we do recover peg and we are able to implement the peg stabilization bot, all of the EMP everywhere will eventually be in Fusion. And again, that is locked under smart contract and multi-sig. So, um, you know, again, I don't see the attack vector. It's completely separate from what happened with the vaults. But all of that is currently under a hardware wallet. If there were to be a hack, then it would have to be both the private keys and the hardware wallet, which again is about as big a precaution that you can take for being safe. But yeah, and all those wallets are, I believe they're even trackable on Fusion Watch. So if you want to look on chain, you can see what we're talking about.
Awesome. Okay. The other question that had been dropped in Discord, I already had on our community questions, so we already answered that. So I'm just scrolling to the top of the YouTube chat. One thing that Grover said, which was really key, is he said, look on the relative multiplier. It's showing extra bonus due to the ETH dip. So that's a really key metric to look at to really show you why this is actually an ideal time if you're looking at it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Shout out to Cool Sheet. He says ride or die EMP.
For sure, brother.
And sorry if you hear my panting dog. She's terrified of thunder, so she's sitting right beside me. Okay, next question. Please let people know how Fusion is built to resist poor market conditions and the prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah, absolutely, Megabody. So, I mean, the short reality is, we are very reliant on crypto. So, we do have, some exposure to traditional markets. Again, like I mentioned earlier, some of that is, with traditional trading. That's another thing I didn't even bring up. We may end up releasing another opportunity. Those that are in the private DAO have heard me talk about this. Because of the volatility we've seen in crypto, we may end up releasing more of a copy trading protocol. Again, that's still in the works, but you would be able to earn without exposure to crypto. It would be just through, the traditional markets, Forex, gold, stocks. So again, that is something that we can definitely move into. And we are, I mean, we are looking to diversify, even though we are solely reliant on crypto right now, we don't have all of our eggs in one basket, meaning, we have positions in ETH, like I said, Sonic, multiple different actual chains and projects. We're bullish on Render, some other great stuff. So, that being said, market conditions still affect where we're at, but we do our best to diversify. In terms of like a prisoner's dilemma, yeah, I mean, again, all of that will be less of an issue as we recover peg. And so, it isn't a sunk cost. Right now, it is somewhat, when you sacrifice your EMP, you probably want to wait until we are at peg where you can at least sell your microgrid for more than what you sack for. But anybody can sell their microgrid at any time, and that isn't something that we determine. I mean, the fair market value of EMP and microgrids is based on what somebody's willing to pay for it. So, as a treasury, we definitely try to buy undervalued microgrids, and we will continue to do that. But again, all this will be less of a potential problem, as we recover. And everything is pointing to that, even with the recent issues. I mean, I don't see any reason why we can't continue the momentum that we've had.
Okay, awesome. Next question from Christian. Any time frame on when dexSwap will be on PulseChain?
Yeah, so again, that was one thing I didn't even mention. Earthquakes and market collapsing and Rabby and DBank, discontinuing support for PulseChain. So again, the idea is that the vaults will come back when the rest of the vaults are live. Again, there's no reason that we wouldn't delay PulseChain specifically, other than if we had issues with the API. So again, unfortunately, I can't really answer that. But if I would say at least a minimum of a month, while we plug all the security holes. We hear from the independent security firm on how the hack happened and how to prevent the hack in the future. Any white hat hackers and crowd sourcing we do to try to infiltrate the code. All that was going to take time. So again, I'd say minimum a month. But yeah, I don't have a time frame.
All right. I think you already went over this one about being an inside dev thing.
Yep. I mean, again, we're looking at all options. You can listen to the recording on why I don't think it was an inside job, but we're absolutely not ruling that out. And we've hired every person and been fully compliant with any info they need. There's IP address signatures. That's the beauty of blockchain and code, is that there's usually a breadcrumbs, and if there isn't, then that is a telltale sign that it is an inside job. So we'll be fully transparent with all that.
All right. Do we have any recourse with the cloud hosts, such as insurance?
Yeah, unfortunately, again, the short answer is no. I mean, it's not it's not something that I don't even know if they have cloud insurance, but no, we didn't have that. But again, I mean, AWS or Google Cloud, I'm sure you hear about it all the time of security leaks, people's identities, millions of dollars, millions of people, but there's never really any recourse uh, on the actual service provider. But I mean, again, if you know otherwise, maybe I'll do some research into that tonight as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Grover would like to quickly add that the value for the number of EMP to buy won't be updated till the liquidity level has settled down.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Grover. Yeah, I know. Again, depending on the liquidity and knowing, how much more EMP needs to be bought, they have to update that manually. So yeah, please be patient with everything we're doing.
I think that Brandon asked this before you went over this question, but he said, so the HvM treasury is unaffected. We went over that. So I don't know if you want to reiterate that one a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So again, I wouldn't say unaffected, but affected least out of everything. Again, the majority of the treasury was already, paid for development, and again, we were yielding great, and we, obviously from the treasury we were using that to pay for marketing and game development, but it was more the expenses were more than what the actual monthly income was anyway. But the good news is that we have a game. Again, we paid for the money went to development, so we will have a game. We're definitely not in a position that because of this the game will not be produced, and we have a bunch of uh, support on the studio side, as well as even some potential publishing partners. So again, this would be a really good question for the HvM live stream. But the idea is that once we have a vertical slice, which is essentially a MVP of the game, then we can actually get investment from publishers, and that will help us really, go mainstream with the game itself. So yeah, we're still we're not in a great spot, but the risk of the game not being made is very low. And again, if anybody wants to maybe even potentially get equity in GG or OTC deals to help us in the short term with the float, then please reach out to me directly.
Awesome. Okay, another question from Mega Buddy. Could you also explain why no more EMP in existence benefits Fusion holders and what no more in existence actually means?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you can kind of think of it as shares of, a real business, or, just the fact that number one, because there's only a certain amount of EMP, if you own that EMP, you own part of the total share of the entity. So again, it's a direct relation to your ownership of the protocol. And number two, if there's no more EMP left, then there's no more EMP to be sold. So uh, again, it's mathematically impossible for the price to go down because there's nobody selling it. Now, that also means there's nobody buying it. So at that point, the chart doesn't even matter, and all the value is in microgrids. So in order to get involved with EMP moving forward in Fusion, you have to buy a microgrid from somebody else. And that means that person is getting all the money and value, not the protocol. So again, it's a really cool way to transfer full ownership of Fusion to the community. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And I think that's another, I still get, uh, random messages like people think, LA and I are making all this money and we're taking money from people. Again, I can't, we don't take a paycheck from EMP. Everything goes right back into
Couldn't be
Fusion.
further from the truth.
I
Yeah.
know, it's just crazy to me, but, again, all the money and everything collected is part of the community, and if you have a microgrid, then you are an owner in Fusion. It's all part of the grand plan of transferring true ownership to the community, and that's why Fusion is so bullish, is because, we've designed it that way, and over the next, whatever, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, whatever the time frame may be, then that is how it will play out.
Yeah, and I just want to go a little further into this question. No more EMP in existence means that all of the EMP is either inside Fusion or inside the treasury that will never be sold. And
For sure.
as well as I think some of it's been burned, or is that only eShare?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is some burn. I mean, technically everything in Fusion is burned, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and there is some in the dead address too.
Yeah, and just to a reminder, we have different stages of our ecosystem recovery plan. And when we are back to peg and when all of the EMP is it within Fusion, and we've moved on to the different phases of a recovery plan, and we have this mega marketing outreach. And we can really focus on activities that boost the APRs within Fusion, and we're creating a ton of buzz around Fusion. There is going to become a time when it is a competition or a competitive energy to get into Fusion, because the holders within Fusion are earning well and may not want to sell their microgrids for less than the displayed value. And that is when we reach this incredibly powerful time where if you want to sell part or all of your microgrid, you're in a position of power because it's the only way to get into Fusion. And I know a lot of people in this community have gotten into Fusion as a retirement plan, and we really take that very seriously. Whoop. I guess we're 5 minutes away from our next AMA. We didn't even
Yeah,
realize.
I know. I was just about to say that. Totally, LA. I know we maybe can be a little bit late, but I really want to get to as many of these as we can. So, can we do kind of a rapid fire from
Yeah,
here?
let's
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
Is there any possibility of reaching out to the hacker on chain and offering him a bounty in exchange for return of majority of funds?
Yes, the short answer is yes, and we already have. So we've both on-chain messaging through Etherscan and DBank messaging. We've done everything we can to reach out to them. So yes.
Awesome. This question from Richard is in regards to the recovery bonds. Is that continuous as long as nothing black swan happens that it will pay out after the 2x?
Yeah, that's the really cool part. So again, assuming there isn't any other catastrophic issues or whatever, if you stake your NFT, the bond NFT, you get your fair share of whatever that uh wallet is able to earn monthly. So and it'll be maybe again it'll be done in epochs. So you may even be able to get paid once a week from again in real time of what it makes. So, and that would be indefinitely. Again, you could eventually sell your NFT to somebody else, but then they would get the reward. So, yeah, it's really cool. It's really again fully transparent. Something that I've never seen before, and is essentially the easy button for vaults anyway. Which is somebody, so a lot of you have been asking for that. You like the idea of concentrated liquidity farming, but you don't want to do it on your own. The other private opportunity, Yield Consortium, which again was devastated in this hack. I mean, it's basically the on-chain version of that. So
Awesome. Molly says, do we really only need 20 people to buy 1K worth of EMP each to regain peg? I'm in. I think Grover answered, it's actually a bit more than that at the moment while the actual liquidity level is being altered. I haven't updated the amount. It's probably closer to 35K. So 35 people then, he says.
yeah, which is still pretty damn bullish. I mean, again, that's why it's in our hands as a community to get there for sure.
Mm-hmm. Richard asks, would the bonds or buying EMP help more?
Yeah, so thanks, Richard. And again, really appreciate your support. The short answer is the number one thing right now that will help everybody is buying EMP. I mean that is always the goal. But in a close second would be the bond program when we do have it up and running, because that will be buying pressure to make everybody whole and recover the treasury indefinitely. So yeah, I would say in order of importance, buying EMP first, buying bond second, buying eShare and GDEX third.
All right. I believe that is all. We can wrap it up.
All right, amazing. That was great. So, man, and we had a really great turnout today. Again, I really appreciate all of you being here, and we're not going anywhere. The AMAs are going to continue. All of you for the support. Yeah, thanks, DeFi guy. Again, everybody that has been ride or die with us from the beginning. I mean, I never thought we'd be making this update. We've had a flawless track record in terms of security, and thank God it was just not a headshot that really we'd be making a much different AMA today of everything is over, and that isn't the case at all. So I appreciate all of you. All this does is maybe extend the timeline a little bit more, but we're as bullish as ever. So all right, we have to go to our other AMA. LA, any final words for all the amazing people and our community? I know we want to do a whole diatribe on our heroes' journey, but maybe that'll be for next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. You guys have literally been what has kept us going and kept us with our eye on our vision this week. If it wasn't for you guys, it would have been a lot harder to stay positive and really think about what matters and not kind of sink into a puddle, So
sure.
we really, really appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here, taking the time to be a part of this tonight. And we value you so, so much. And we do still believe in a positive, shiny future we just have to continue working hard to get there. And we appreciate all of you being a part of that. So we'll see you over on the HvM AMA in a minute or two, and we'll then dive into what's going on over there.
All right, amazing. Yes, and again, LA said it perfect. So, and on the time frame, we're gonna run now. So please meet us over there. And yeah, if there's any further questions, ask us over in the HvM AMA. So much love to all of you. Good night, good day. We will be right back at you next week, and please feel free to reach out on any of our socials in the meantime. All right, bye bye, everyone.